So, hi everyone. The public meeting of the Board of Education's Facilities Improvement and Oversight Committee for September 16th, 2025 is called to order. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for all being here. It's always such a large crowd. Before we get started, I'll give a little preview of what we're going to talk about today. Of course, public comment. I do want to say public comment, as much as I love to let it go on, I've got to cap it at 2 minutes today. We have a lot to cover. We're going to review the committee charter that we went over last meeting and hopefully recommend to send it to the full board for approval. We'll review the comprehensive master plans for Jefferson, Cleveland, and Ida B. Wells. We'll have an update on the athletic facilities improvements and then discuss the Office of School Modernization planning. So let's see, let's go ahead and do, want to go around and do introductions? Got some new faces. How about presenter?
Hi, my name is Eric Girding. I'm a senior project manager with the Office of School Modernization and been with the bond program for about 12 years. I completed the Fabian K-8 project as well as Lincoln High School. And now I'm on the Cleveland High School project. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Steve Efros, Senior Project Manager in OSM, working on the Jefferson project. Originally started in facilities and then transferred into OSM as part of the Kellogg Middle School project in Jefferson.
John Franco, Senior Chief of Operations.
Good afternoon, Tom Hodges, Chief of Integrated Operations.
Hi, Sarah Norman with Presidio, Interim Director of Office of School Modernization.
Virginia LaForte, Board Director and Chair of Facilities Committee.
Michelle Chase Miller, Board Director for Zone 4.
Eddie Wong, Board Chair.
Kimberly Armstrong, Superintendent.
Deborah Kafori, Chief of Staff.
Liz Large, Member of the Board.
Roseanne Fold, Manager.
Michelle.
I'm sorry, yes. Hi, Michelle DePass, Vice Chair of the School Board.
Yeah, Patty Sullivan, School Board Member.
Got everybody. So for public comment, let's move into that. Do we want to, I'll leave it up to whoever's giving comment, but you're welcome to come up to the table when you give your comments. So let's see, let's go ahead. And again, please make sure when you begin your comments that you clearly state your name, spell your last name. You'll have 2 minutes. And when you hear the alarm go off, you can please wrap up your comments. So let's go ahead and start with, is it Derek? Is it Ranta? Ranta? Derek?
Pretty sure he was for the last board meeting.
He was for the last board
this
meeting.
one.
Am I in the wrong one? Hold on, guys. It's popular. No? Today's the 16th, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't have him down.
Yeah, he's down. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just go ahead and keep going. So Megan Stepik?
May I have Jan Watt go before me?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Jan, come on up.
Sit together.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to hold each other's hands. I knew you'd love that. Nice to see you. I'm wearing my pride on my darn shirt.
I'm Jan Watt, a years-long resident of the Cleveland community and a very proud educator in that very high school building for 56 years. And I'm here because I cannot stop thinking about the need to restructure our Office of School Modernization that was announced in the last board meeting. To be very frank, the testimony to me was very troubling, especially as it pertained to a contract with an out-of-state entity. I'm extremely sympathetic to the new board members who obviously were very unsure about how to process these latest developments, and frankly, I was also dismayed. So I'm here tonight to ask, actually beg, please do not delay. Assure our community, along with Wells and Jefferson's, that we do have and PPS will not waver from the start dates we've been promised for our rebuildings. And to the two of you who are unaware, Cleveland has waited 14 years. 14 years, going on 15, for our turn. In 2011, Cleveland was named the very first high school to be remodeled. And then for reasons that never have been disclosed, we all of a sudden were at the bottom of the list. But we have held very strong at Cleveland. We have a lot of Cleveland pride. Our enrollment consistently surpasses the PPS projections. Our staff and students are very adept now at dodging falling ceiling tiles. We deal with heat and the lack of cooling daily. And our staff and dedicated parents for years and years have painted our own classrooms and our hallways while tirelessly maintaining our building's landscape and that of our athletic stadium just 4 blocks away. So please vow, promise that we will not face any construction or project delays. The benign neglect of this extraordinarily successful high school on the corner of 26th and Powell has gone on long enough.
Have to wrap up.
I have witnessed it over and over again for 56 years, and that fact cannot be denied.
We have to wrap up.
Allow
Thank you,
us
Ms.
to
Martin.
move forward now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, she's a tough act to follow. My name is Megan Stefik. I represent, along with Liz Super, the Turf Pal Park Advocacy Group. We are a movement of Cleveland parents of softball and baseball players advocating for equity and safety for athletes during the Cleveland High School modernization. We challenged PPS leadership 2 years ago now to work with Parks and Rec to find a mutually beneficial solution for multi-use turf fields at Powell Park due to the lack of available land closer in southeast Portland. Since then, we have taken a position as collaborators, partners in your process, testifying, raising awareness, and rallying the community for a successful 2025 PPS bond outcome. But I am here disheartened and frustrated by the lack of progress. As it is, student athletes miss 2 to 5 instructional hours per week, depending on the game schedule, traveling to off-campus practices and games, given Cleveland has 1 turf field at the stadium. Using the Marshall campus for 3 years does not solve the loss of classroom time. It only creates another layer of complexity, given Cleveland Stadium will also be unavailable for 2 years. More student athletes will miss homework time commuting to and from the Marshall campus for evening practices after having been at school. And additionally, students who cannot commute twice a day just won't sign up. Now, additionally, you have all been updated about the homeless population, the vandalism, the destruction, and theft that have become regular occurrences impacting the softball team at Woodstock Park, and more recently, the baseball team at Powell Park. The biggest concern, of course, is that our children may interact with drug paraphernalia that's left at these parks. All of these examples that I'm giving you contribute to why families leave the district. It's a lack of common infrastructure, instances of safety and security issues, and inequitable facilities contributing to factors in the declining enrollment numbers. I've been looking forward to tonight's modernization presentation for a long time, and I was super excited to see it, and I read it in advance. There is no documented update on any collaboration with Portland Parks and Rec. And just before the meeting, I spoke to Chief of Staff Deb Kafori, who reached out to the city of Portland this morning and was told, after many, many phone calls, that the process is just starting and that they will provide an update. So please clear whatever obstacles are stymieing this process. Please, please move forward with Parks and Rec for Cleveland High School.
So Megan, just so I'm clear, so I understand with the move out to Marshall and the Powell Park location, your concern is that students, or, because you know there's multiple sets of practices, I understand that they will, in terms of the time in between, there'll be several hours where they have to travel home and back to the facility and back home later at night. Is that correct? It's about
Very common.
5 or 6
Very
miles
common.
from Cleveland? Okay. Just make sure.
Very common.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Laura Westwood. Is Laura here?
I'll let her in just a moment.
What's that?
She's virtual, so I'm moving
Oh.
over right now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thanks, Laura.
Okay, great, thank you. And apologies for being virtual. I'm going off to lead our PTA meeting right after this. Hello, thank you. I'm Laura Westwood, the PTA president at Irvington Elementary School. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak today about a significant safety issue at our school that parents have been trying to correct for over a decade. I want to acknowledge that this is a very small problem in the scope of what the board is currently tackling. Irvington does not have a fully secure campus, and we are requesting help to install a fence along Northeast Brzee Street, which would enclose the remaining perimeter, providing much more safety and security for our pre-K and elementary age students and school staff. I included a map in the board materials that hopefully you have received. In recent years, we have seen an increased need for this security. We've had off-leash dogs on the campus at all hours, leading to increased incidents, including dog bites and harassment and unsanitary pet waste. We've had people unaffiliated with the school attempting to traverse campus during school hours and sometimes not leaving when asked. And we have had acts of vandalism, including a car driving through the unfenced area, damaging our soccer field. The PTA received bids, secured a contractor, and raised $25,000 for this project. In March 2024, our principal submitted the PDR. What we thought would be a simple project approval has turned into over a year of back and forths, including being told it was denied because the fence would hinder the ability to remove leaves during the fall and because of zoning issues, all of which we disproved. Most recently, we were told for the first time that the fence requires a concrete mow strip. We got bids on the mow strip per PPS's specifications, and it adds an additional $30,000 to the project. PPS's own bid for the fence and mow strip came in at $60,000. Unfortunately, this is well beyond the $25,000 that we took so much time and effort to raise. So I come today to graciously ask for your help on this necessary project and request funding from PPS to install this fence, with the PTA contributing $25,000. On behalf of the Irvington PTA, we appreciate our partnership with PPS and providing the best environment for our students, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, that concludes our public comment. And let's go ahead and move on to the committee charter. Last committee meeting, we reviewed a draft of the committee charter, and the revised draft that I've included in materials includes your feedback that we noted during this discussion. And if we can walk through it real quick and make sure that everybody's comfortable with the changes, we then recommend that it goes to the full board to approval at our October meeting. The changes that we've made in here are related to our purpose, where we clarified that it's our purpose to provide financial oversight, strategic guidance, and formal recommendations to the full board regarding the development, implementation, and ongoing refinement of school modernizations, physical facility improvements, health and safety projects, and other district-wide strategic initiatives, including alignment with the district's long-range facilities plan. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there was one more person.
Oh, Neon, you're not on the list. Come on up. Obviously, this is Neon Brooks, but I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Neon Brooks. I talk really fast because I timed myself at 3 minutes, but I've shortened a little. I'm a parent of a first grader and a fourth grader at PPS, and I'm speaking as a member of Safe Structures PPS. I know safety is not going to get a lot of discussion at this meeting, but it's very much on the minds of the families in the community. And we wanted to react to the new engineering report that was released at the September board meeting. The report is a sobering read. It highlights the extremely high level of seismic deficiencies at a large number of PPS buildings. On a 10-point scale, PPS has 49 building parts with a risk score of 9 or greater. That means like a piece of the building was all built at the same time. And 131 school building parts with a risk score of 7 or greater. Keeps going from there. The resolution 7109 passed by the board this spring stated that after the listed projects in the bond and the reserve fund for urgent projects, the first and highest use of funds available is to address critical repairs at the 8 to 10 schools assessed to pose the greatest risk of injury or death in a significant seismic event. Per the information currently available, the 8 schools that have the highest risk building parts are Beverly Cleary K-8, Jackson Middle School, Rose City Park Elementary, Jason Lee Elementary, Buckman Elementary, Reiki Elementary, Kelly Elementary, and Capitol Hill Elementary School, all of which have risk scores of 9.4 or higher. If there were additional savings from high school projects, that could fund critical retrofits at other high schools, including Roseway Heights, Ainsworth Beach, Glencoe, Kelly, and Rigler, all of which have buildings with risk scores of 9.2 or 9.3. However, to the extent that bond projects go over budget, the district must find a way to ensure this does not leave less funds for critical seismic repairs and more lives lost during a major earthquake. I want to say that Safe Structures supports decision-making that will save as many lives as possible in the event of a major earthquake. And based on the information shared at the September 9th board meeting, that would be option C, appears to be the most effective method. And I just want to say that PPS has failed to fulfill the terms of 7109. They have not presented a report with prioritization sequencing of the more than 200 buildings that require repairs. Thanks very much.
So, just so you know, the option C that's discussed in the meeting, I've asked staff to incorporate that into the deck. So we can actually see all three options, since only A and B are in the deck and post it. We'll reach out to you as soon as that's done. And then we also will be starting the cadence of every other month in October. So the next facilities meeting will have an update, and hopefully we'll hear something about kicking off the process that we're talking about.
Awesome,
So,
yeah. So just a reminder, the PPS was directed by the board to have this report by no later than September 1st with full prioritization. So, yeah.
Thank you. Roseanne, we've got everybody?
Yes.
Good? Okay. Okay, so back to our charter. Okay, so board advisory on facilities and capital planning. I'm not going to read the whole thing here. I just want to go over the changes. So, clarified that clear and consistent communication with the board of directors on board-facing facilities-related and capital planning initiatives, serving as the key liaison to the full board for project updates, approvals, and we added that will require full board votes. Under environmental health and safety, just a clarification, and there's a little bit of reordering. Number 2, support PPS goals related to environmental sustainability, responsible stewardship of public resources, energy efficiency, and climate resilience. And on our last bullet point under charter review and revision, we talked a little bit about that in terms of like how often we want to revisit this. And I went ahead and changed annually to as needed based on everyone's feedback. I was a little concerned about regularly because I felt like we're revisiting it all the time. It's not, a solid document that we can work against. So hoping that everyone is comfortable with as needed, so that when something comes up and we're feeling like this, doesn't meet our needs or, answer to the public in a way that we need it to, we can go ahead and revise it. So with that, I guess I'm asking Directors DePass and Chase Miller if you're comfortable moving this forward to the next board meeting.
I reviewed the changes prior to the meeting, and I think that they will go.
Great.
I'm also happy to move forward and like the added flexibility of adding the as needed rather than annually. So it feels like a living document and that we can change it as needed. So yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so with that, I think everybody's ready for next one, revised comprehensive master plans. Our next topic is an update on the revised master plans for Jefferson, Cleveland, I.W. Wells high schools. And following today's presentation and discussion, the 3 master plans are scheduled to be brought to the full board for approval on October 14th. And Dr. Franco, do you want to go ahead and introduce this?
Yeah, thank you. And so just so you know, we are very excited to talk about this today and talk with you all about the revised comprehensive plans. And this will be a team approach. We do have project managers here, and I'm going to kind of drive this from my computer, but we will have folks coming up depending on the project that they supervise. And if we could, and we practice this, I have a little timer here in terms of presentation. So we thought that we could give the presentation, then after each one, we set some time up for questions after each one. Does that sound okay, Director LaFleur?
Sounds great.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just as a quick kind of executive summary, and this was all in the memo, and you'll get more detail in regards to purpose. And really the purpose today is to really summarize the comprehensive plans for Jefferson, for Cleveland, and for Ida B. Wells. And what comprehensive plans generally mean is scope, schedule, budget, right? And so the scope, it is aligned with the cost reduction framework. The schedule, you could see here, consistent starting in summer of 26, school opening, all three of them in the fall of 29. And then you could see the projected budget for the 3-year. What we'd like to see is a conversation or actions or decisions needed today is provide feedback on the comprehensive plan presentations for our OSM team to incorporate, and then confirm the coordinated project schedule recommendation, as Director LaFord said, that we could take to the board on October 14th. That's ultimately what the timeline is going to be. And so in between then, we want to definitely finalize these comprehensive plans and presentation materials for the October 14th board meeting. And then, of course, then present the plans to the full board for approval. So what is a comprehensive plan? As I just mentioned, it is scope, schedule, and budget that will be carried through for the remainder of the design and the construction phases of the project. And the board authorizes comprehensive plans through resolutions. This, I know it's very hard to see, and the intent is for you not really to pay attention really to what's on the left, because we'll go through all this. It's really just to give you a visual depiction of the 3 high schools and the timelines associated with each, and and as you can see, it's very consistent with all 3. And it falls in line with what the scope is in terms of timeline, in terms of starting in the summer of 26, and then completion in terms of the fall, or kids are ready to move in terms of the fall of 29. And so with that, we're going to start with Jefferson, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve. And is this okay for everyone? Can you guys see this? You want me to see this okay? It's okay? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay,
great. Thanks, John. Yes, so a quick overview of the agenda. We have the plan overview, which will basically be what John described as the work that we've done since the cost reduction study. We have the current design work that will look at the latest design renderings of the exterior and the interior. We'll look at the current project schedule in terms of the latest design and construction timeline. And then an updated budget summary, which is a summary of the new budget and the savings that we achieved since the cost reduction study. The next. So this is an overview of the site plan, and really much of the site plan is the same as before the cost reduction study. The building design was updated to meet the board's cost reduction study framework. The general orientation of the site is with the building on the north or the right side, facing Killingsworth. You can also see the North Portland Library in the northeast corner, kind of the lower right-hand corner. It has a cross-block connection, which is actually similar to the Lincoln modernization, that connects commercial, which is at the bottom, to Kirby at the top. We have athletics fields that are south of that, including the track and field, tennis courts, baseball, soccer, and softball field south of Alberta. And the building footprint itself, which is on the right, has changed from before, but the cross-block connection has largely remained the same and just adjusted to this shape. And there are now also new plaza areas where the teen parent center used to be. Good. Next. So this is really just an overview of the cost reduction study and how it affected the design from where we were before. So the cost reduction board framework included adjustments of the building area to the ed spec requirement of 295,000 gross square feet. However, the major organization of the building that you can see in blue, green, and yellow has largely stayed the same. The updates included achieving the goals of the board framework through several major moves. So one of them was a relocation of the Teen Parent Center from a standalone building that you can kind of see in white there on the left-hand diagram, from a standalone building into the main building. It also included a reduced footprint of the theater, which allowed more program to wrap around that space. And then finally, an overall area adjustment that allowed the main gym to move to the ground floor from being on the second floor before, which I think everyone agrees is an improvement. Go to the next slide. So this is just a quick overview, very high level of the floor plans, just so you have a kind of a little better idea of how things are organized in the building. So here's on the ground floor, we have the entry into the building on Kirby, which is on the left-hand side. And that opens into the Commons, which is at the center of that academic wing that I spoke of before. You have an academic wing, or sorry, you have a administrative bar in pink that's right next to the main entry. You have the Teen Parent Center at the bottom, kind of at that kind of pointed area of the building close to the crosswalk connection. And then you have the servery right at the center in gray. Moving into the arts wing in green, upwards to the north, we have the theater at the center, the choir and band on the west side, and the construction CTE on the east. And then you have, we were able to essentially adjust the media center, which is that bar on the top, on the north side of the floor, so that it faces and is directly adjacent to Killingsworth. And then finally, the athletics wing in yellow with the entry off the cross block, kind of that little notch close to the cross block. And the main gym along Commercial, and then there are supporting spaces around that. Go to the next slide. You have the second floor plan on the left. We have the main commons stair up to the second floor with partner spaces at the top. The rest of the wing includes general ed classes in blue. Then you can see in the arts wing, we have CTE and visual art spaces around the theater facing Kirby and Killingsworth. And then the two Jefferson dancer studios are facing Killingsworth and the North Portland Library. And then finally, the athletics wing on the second floor includes the aux gym and weight room. And then on the third and fourth floor on the right, we include the two academic bars, those kind of the horizontal and that diagonal bar, which are general ed and science classrooms in blue. And then at the center, the kind of the intersection of those is a student flex space on both of those floors. So this next one is an overview of the EdSpec, kind of a comparison of where we were to where we are now. And each of the projects is going to present a similar diagram. So you can see on the left, we have the total building area in red for the EdSpec minimum. We have it in yellow for the prior design, and then in blue for the current 2025 design. And then on the right, you'll see that it compares how the area is allocated across different program categories. And that you'll see some of those areas are lower and some of them are higher, and each modernization has sort of an adjustment to make based on that school's program focus area. So obviously Jefferson's focus is fine and performing arts, so you can see that it pops up a little bit higher there. And some of that allocation is taken from the general ed, particularly the elective classes on the left. Go to the next. So these are some renderings of exterior views of the building. This is a view of the main entry on Kirby. So you can see the cross block connection on the right. You can see in the distance is the athletic wing. You can see the academic wing in the foreground with the arts wing in the distance kind of far to the left. And then you can also start to see some of the building materials that we're beginning to select for this, including brick. And that actually has an important reference to the original 1909 building. And then you can also see blue on the stair and at the entry, and that's also obviously an important Jefferson color. So this is the work that we're doing to kind of add more information and materials to the project. We're also adding a layer of what we call cultural placemaking elements on the exterior and the interior, and that's really based on a lot of community engagement and feedback on the project. So we hope in the future to show more of those details going forward. The next view is from Killingsworth, and you can see the arts wing in the foreground, with the media center having kind of a prominent place on the corner of Killingsworth and Kirby. And that contributes to bringing more activity and life to this Albina neighborhood street. You can also see a little bit to the right are angled walls of the band and choir rooms, and those are actually reflections of the angled acoustical walls inside. So again, you're starting to see more and more of those details. And then finally, on the upper level, you can see the visual art spaces as well as CTE. And then in the distance, kind of to the left there, is one of the dance studios that overlooks Killingsworth. And this is the final exterior rendering that is a view of the athletics entry, cross block, and track. And this is a view from the track, obviously, with the athletic wing on the left, and then on the right, and then the academic wing on the left. And you can also see some early ideas for athletic graphics on that facade facing the track, which obviously it has the demo's name there, but this is just sort of an early concept that we have going forward. Just a couple of interior views. Obviously the main gym. We're not showing any materials or colors yet. We have showing some possible wood trusses here, but I think the idea is to try to take as much inspiration from the current Jefferson gym as possible, because it's such a storied building. This is a view of the Commons, and this space is really, as you saw in the plans, at the center of the school, and it brings a lot of the qualities of the current Jefferson Center Hall. If you've been in Jefferson, that's an important social and school community gathering space, obviously in addition to being a cafeteria space. And again, you're also starting to see presence of mass timber structure, which is used in this wing of the building. And this is finally just a bird's eye view, just giving you a little bit more context within the larger Albina community. Next. So yeah, a quick highlight of the schedule as John kind of showed, zoomed out. Obviously, we're undertaking the redesign since the cost reduction study, and that work will continue through 2026. We have the land use effort, which will actually get underway next month, and permitting will follow that effort as well. But with students and staff staying on site during construction, we've created actually a separate early fields package that will allow us to start construction next summer and complete these fields so that they can be used before the start of building construction, so to provide access to play fields, practice fields during that period. And then we have building construction starting in 2027 and complete by the summer of 29, with students moving in the fall. And then one final period of building demo and site work until completion in the fall of 2030. So this is just a budget summary. Again, you'll see this is a standard form we use on all three projects. And this provides an overview of the budgets from 2022, 23, and now 25. And so what we're trying to show here is really the changes that have occurred, particularly from 2023, from the prior pivot on the project. And so some of the changes include the reduction of the hard cost of construction there, about $357 million. Additional allowance of about $2 million for additional off-site improvements. Obviously, below the line there, you'll see the increased design costs related to the post-cost reduction study effort. A slight increase in what we call FF&E. It's for basically furnishings and equipment, just based on cost escalation. We have a category called Move, Swing Space, and Tent Facilities. Every project has that category, but this is just referring, in our case, an allowance that we've put together for student transportation to offsite at the facility. So it's just limited to that additional cost. And then finally, the contingency, which always adjusts based on the total cost of the project. And so at the 10% requirement, we're at about $42 million. So our total is 466 million, which yielded savings of about just under 25 million. Yeah, so this is just really next steps. We're undertaking our schematic design end of phase approval, which includes document review internally, page turn review meetings, estimating by the design teams or levers estimator RLB. With our new CMGC on board, Colas Hoffman, we have them also undertaking a separate estimating process. Also working with us on logistics, phasing, schedule, workshops, and OAC meetings. And then our next community engagement meeting will be an information session on October 15th.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Excellent. Questions?
Any questions? Eddie? Oh, sorry. Director Vaughn and Director. I've got a couple. So first of all, it's amazing. I went over to the last community meeting and I standing there was trying to understand like how it was going to look and I still can't picture it. So I cannot wait until it actually happens. I mean, I get it, but until you're standing in front of it, it's really impressive. So thank you. I had a couple questions. One, I know the board adopted a framework last spring, the framework for cost reductions, and I wanted to ask. I noticed that one of the things they asked for was that projects should only have teen parenting centers if there is a demonstrated need among students at each school. Then I saw the article in the Oregonian this morning that said there are currently 3 children at Jefferson that are utilizing the teen parent centers. So my question is, do you consider this data showing that we have a demonstrated need? You have 3 kids?
I mean, I think there was a broader effort through district staff that looked across, I think, all of the schools and kind of did that evaluation. I don't know the details of how that evaluation occurred, but I think each school was evaluated on its merits and kind of what the prospective need would be, not just now, but going forward. Obviously now there's also, I think, just about 400 students, so, you know, that will change over time.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So maybe this is a question for Dr. Franco. Do you think at any point during the process, I think it was about $3.5 million, we have 16 kids, I think, in the district. If this is something we felt we don't necessarily need Jefferson, at what point in the process do we remove it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's tough to say like right now. Just because there's been so much forethought that has gone into this. Right? So when you design a building, the reality is there's so much that goes into it in terms of projection, and so many people go into it in terms of like it's not what the building is now, but what it has to last for several years. And so I think that's the piece that I think that Steve was talking to. In terms of your other question around what would we do if it turns out it's not needed, well, you know, that's the adjustment I think we potentially just have to make, but we're going to build it according to what the input and the stakeholders felt it is needed for the future.
We're just pointing out that the board framework specifically said only if there's a demonstrated need, so I just want to call that out.
Yeah, if I can just add, so we did have staff look into that, and what was discussed was not just a demonstrated need at the school, but also like what are the supports in the community to support teen parents and served in that area. And so I think that's the framework. And I think another key move, which I appreciate, is the building being moved from a standalone building to inside the school, because that means that that's usable space that we're able to reallocate differently if it isn't a teen parent center. And I think that opens up.
It's flexible.
I think that's what we're trying to do even with the health centers, right? How are we designing spaces that can be flexed to be used differently should there be a different demonstrated need?
And then on the budget page, on the budget summary, So the range of potential savings that was presented to the board in April was 25 to 33 million. So we're seeing about 25 here. So we're at the low end of that range, but we've added an outside expert, Presidio, over the last 3 months specifically to cover Jefferson and to find additional cost savings. So I'm wondering, Sarah, if you've been able to identify any additional savings aside from what staff uncovered.
We actually have
previously.
a comprehensive plan that we're going to deliver, which is one of our deliverables that was talked at length at the last board meeting. And we will have multiple options that we are investigating that will have cost data and schedule impact. And so we're looking forward to presenting that by October 10th.
Okay. And so is it your opinion that right now that we'll see additional cost reductions?
It depends on what options the board decides to go with.
Okay. And
If any of those
saying-
options are viable to the community, if those options are viable to PPS and the board.
Are those, is that anything that we would be voting on? I bet.
Not at October,
Okay. So I assume
no.
that the next facilities meeting is October 8th, I believe. So is the plan to do it at that meeting?
I don't think we'll be voting on anything at that meeting either.
No, not voting, but I think the update actually goes to the facilities committee, as opposed to the board. Is that correct, Roseanne?
I actually, the update would start here in the facilities committee meeting, and if it's something that would require board action,
Yes,
it would
then we
start
would.
here. And
We'll
then
be
go
seeing
Sorry about that. I
additional,
misspoke.
no, you're fine. I just wanted to make sure I knew which meeting it was.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we'll be seeing some additional options for Jefferson in a few weeks.
Just a follow-up question to that. I don't want any delays on this project. Or any options are going to introduce any potential delays?
No, that's the idea, is to provide options that would actually, hopefully, if, just, we're gonna present everything that's out there. And I wanna just give credit to the team at OSM. This team has been working tirelessly for many years to get this project to fruition for the community and the kids. And they are trying to meet every criteria that is there. And so I definitely don't want to say some of that. I mean, that 25 million almost 25 million that you're seeing there is the work of the individuals that are in OSM. That is who did that work. And so I don't want that to be lost. And the presentation that we're going to provide is just additional ideas that potentially the board could execute and identify and see if it would be additional cost savings. But no, the idea on any of those ideas is to expedite schedule, not delay schedule. Absolutely not.
And I just want to underscore that because I hear that the primary reason wasn't just saving costs, it was dual. It was looking for cost savings, but really to expedite the timeline for Jefferson High School because of the multiple delays. And so I think that will be included in the report too. And I think by expediting on the timeline also then delivers some savings that I've been talking about the timeline from Jefferson probably the moment we began talking about the schedule plan. So I will say that is a key driver. And then the other thing, I too want to thank the team for getting to this point. I know that we began this journey when I began pushing back on the cost of the high schools when they were set at $490, and I know that brought in a lot of frustration and a lot of changing plans and redirecting. I appreciate the board trusting that and creating the framework so that we can find additional costs. And I mean, I'm excited that we're almost $25 million later, that first question and push resulted in 25 million in savings. So I just appreciate the work around that.
Okay.
I had a comment, not necessarily a question, if I may.
Yes.
My comment was, that 100 years ago, school leaders imagined a future they couldn't even imagine. They invested in 81 plus campuses and buildings when Portland had population of less than a third of what it is today. And those buildings have gotten to be 100 years old, in some cases 80 years old. And our board is tasked with the same type of future focused decision-making where we can't see the population in front of us in 100 years. We can't see the need for a teen center out 100 years. And so we have to, like the former board members, take that leap of faith and design for, into the 22nd century. The other comment was just, I also don't want to do anything that causes delays. The patience is thin on the delays. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to move to Cleveland. And so, Eric?
Yes.
Eric.
Okay, Cleveland High School Modernization Comprehensive Plan Update. So as a reminder, this is an update to the comprehensive plan that was passed in 2024 by the bond. So that established the primary scope and approach to the project, and this is the update based on the board framework for cost reduction. So we'll be looking at kind of what our site opportunities and constraints are with Cleveland, the proposed building design, some of the area reductions during the cost reduction process. We'll look at updated floor plans, interior renderings. We'll look at the athletic fields, and then our schedule, budget, and then also some next steps. Next slide, please. So here's our Cleveland High School campus, which is a collection of 3 properties, distinct sites. We have the main school kind of in the center there along Powell Boulevard, which is a state highway. We have our Cleveland Stadium, which is about 4 blocks away, and then there's a parking lot across the street, across 26th Avenue. And then, not shown here, but just sort of below the main school is also Powell Park across the street. That is important interest for the project. Next slide. So the existing main campus building and site it's the smallest site in the district that we have for a comprehensive high school. On the state highway, there's sort of extra challenges with design and approvals. The current configuration of the building basically occupies the entire site. There's been little to no outdoor secure space for students. Recently, some areas have been kind of fenced off to provide some secure space, but it's really not very desirable, and we see that as one of the opportunities in the new design. Additionally, just with the constrained site, even though we're surrounded by neighborhood, this construction condition is more or less just like building in downtown Portland among high rises. We have very little construction, logistics, and laydown space. So we have a lot of challenges just with construction itself. So our main opportunities with the design are to create more open space for staff and students that is secure, as well as reduce the actual footprint of the building to reduce some of those construction logistics complications. Yeah, next slide, please. So there you can see the proposed building on the right, which is configured of 2 primary structures that are 4 stories. So we have kind of in the back of the image that is kind of our main building that's along Powell Boulevard that houses our large volume spaces such as the theater, gymnasiums, and we have 2 levels of classrooms up above. Then the north building along Franklin Avenue, that's a little bit more in the residential side, has primary just classrooms and our main entrance and commons and servery. Next slide, please. So the Cleveland site has about an 18-foot grade change from the east side down to the west side. And so this is looking at that interior courtyard space that we've created, where kind of the eastern courtyard will step down and ramp down to get down to grade, creating different areas for students and staff to occupy space outside that's all within a secure perimeter. And then you see what we call the connector, which is a kind of small piece of building that's connecting the north and south buildings. Next slide. During the cost reduction study, one of the primary methods we used to reduce costs, which was part of the board framework, was to get our building size down to approximately 295,000 square feet. With some adjustments, we're able to get to approximately 297,000 square feet. You'll see the areas that are highlighted in yellow, which were more or less parts of the building that we just kind of removed from the design to reduce the square footage. Also on the right-hand image, where you see, right where the cursor is, that was kind of in our big volume auditorium spaces. We also reduced our basement construction area in that study as well, which was part of the board framework. Next slide. So this is a program comparison that's looking at the education specifications. The red bar is actually looking at Lincoln High School, which was used as kind of an example during discussions with the board and sort of right-sizing our project. So we're comparing to where Lincoln ended up, and then the green bar is Cleveland High School, and it's looking at kind of how the program is spread across. The education specifications give us the flexibility to make adjustments to accommodate the programs on each site, which is why you'll see differences between different schools, but more or less, you know, they kind of all add up to a similar area. Next slide. So the general organization of the main level, well, I'd say level 1, where actually on the right side of the slide is the part of the site that's underground at that point, where we're sort of under the hillside. So you see the south building has our primary athletic spaces. We have our gymnasiums and locker rooms and fitness center and support spaces. We have the courtyard that's between the south building and the north building. This is the western courtyard that is more or less one level. So it all slopes down from the east, and then on the west side it's more of an open sort of one level courtyard with a large actual turfed grass area so that the fitness center can kind of open up onto that. And then we have our art classrooms on the other side of that courtyard space that have space they can open up onto. We've got an area for what could be a little outdoor stage and gathering spaces for the students. The north building there, as you see, has our art spaces. We have our health clinic, teen parent center, building support spaces, and our CTE construction program. Next slide, please. And so this is moving up a level where we've got more student support and commons and administration on the north building. South building is showing our performing arts. And at our gymnasium, that ring around the gymnasium space is showing a raised track, which is an alternate within the ed specs. And we're hoping to add that to the project. It's currently an alternate. That's really due to the fact that we're 4 blocks away from our track and field, that we'd really like to provide more facility for athletics and PE at the building. Next slide, please. And then looking up at the level 3 and the level 4 is really just classrooms continuing up on both the north and south building. So you can go to the next slide as well. Just a different organization of general classrooms, science classrooms, and CTE. Next slide, please. This is looking at the Cleveland Stadium. So the existing track and field will stay where it's at. We will do some improvements to that, and then we'll be expanding the grandstands, rebuilding the existing field house, which is in pretty poor condition. And that new field house will also have a batting facility for baseball and softball, because we currently don't have PPS baseball and softball fields. Get to that in a second. And then we're adding a turf practice field up in that northwest corner. These are some interior views. This is after you come in the main entrance to the building. You're walking past the administration, then you come into the commons area, sort of the primary indoor gathering space for students, and the windows on the left are looking into the courtyard space. Next slide. And this is coming around that commons area. We're now in the connector piece between the north and south building. Kind of again looking down into the courtyard, and the commons activity actually kind of extends around into the connector. Next slide. And then as we come around, this is at the same level. This is the lobby out in front of the Performing Arts Center. So the idea is that entrance from the north building, wrapping around the connector, and then into the south building kind of has a similar feel and quality of material and daylight and furnishings to create that cohesive experience. Next slide. This is a view inside the gymnasium, the main gym, looking at sort of what it will look like, with the bleachers retracted. You can kind of see the track up above. Next slide. And then this is up on the running track, looking around, seeing the bleachers extended to what would be the center court. Next slide. Powell Park. So this is our current design diagram we have for the fields at Powell Park. We're looking at improving the baseball field, a multi-purpose field that provides facilities for soccer and lacrosse. And then also adding a new softball field just to the east of that, which is a smaller field you can see that's kind of standing alone. So this is our sort of concept diagram that leadership has taken to the city to talk to parks about making arrangements to get this moving forward. We're currently getting the team set up to start the full design work as we move forward. Next slide. Looking at our schedule, similar to the last schedule you saw for Jefferson, we're currently in design documents and beginning into construction documents at the beginning of the year. We're starting our land use review process at just toward the end of October, then going into building permits. We start off with moving the whole program out to the Marshall campus, and then with demo and abatement. As you saw from the aerial, we have a lot of building mass to do abatement and demo on, so we have a number of months to do that work. And then we get into the new construction of the building. We are pushing the construction team to complete the Cleveland Stadium a year before the main building, so we can provide that facility to the school community. So we're looking at fall 28 for the stadium to open, and then fall 29 for the building. Next slide, please. And then here's a summary of our budget compared to the board-approved comprehensive plan from last year and the revised plan that we have now. So as you see, there's some reduction in hard costs based on the cost reduction study. But we've also made adjustments to some of our other budget line items based on new information. We reduced a little bit of our off-site utility cost information after speaking with PGE. Some of those requirements are not as much as we had anticipated. However, we do have some additional soft costs related to design, to redesign from the cost reduction study. Similar to what Steve mentioned, our FF&E, furniture and equipment budget, we've increased that just for cost escalation, what we're seeing in the market with increased costs. And then we also added some additional budget for work out at Marshall campus, just understanding that there's kind of more need to have work done at Marshall to accommodate the program for Cleveland to move over. Somewhat of kind of undoing some changes that were done by the Benson program, and also just some upgrades that need to be done as that building needs to be ready for Cleveland. So the summary we have after all of that is about $11 million of savings. We were at about 14 million, and just the other budget shifts, kind of sort of counteracted some of that savings we received. And then you'll see that there is a $15 million budget that was an allowance that was included in the 2025 bond for the Powell Park fields. So that's being included in the overall Cleveland project budget. So that's why you see that's the highest budget number, is because of that additional work at Powell Park. Next slide. So next steps, we're in our design development phase. We're ongoing design review with our PPS stakeholders. We'll have our next milestone documents issued on October 24th, where our CMGC contractor and third-party estimator will conduct another cost estimate process to sort of validate where we are on costs. Our CMGC Skanska is, we're working with them in pre-construction services, and we're also going out for trade partners to bring in major subcontractors to work with us during design for pre-construction. And for community engagement, we have our design advisory group meeting. Next one is in 2 days on Thursday. Excited to get back with the community there. And then having an overall community design workshop on October 4th. And going out to Selwood Middle School to talk to families there about the project in October. Okay.
Good job. Thank you.
Went over a little bit.
It's okay. Nice sound, Jared. That was what it's like, 2 claps. Questions?
I always have questions, but.
Yeah, is in the design and review process, are special educators participating in that?
Yes. Yes, at Cleveland specifically for their program needs, and also coordination with the district level.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
No, I'm still thinking. Go ahead.
Okay, I've got a couple. So it looks like, I'm just curious, like, and definitely, the Cleveland site is so challenging. I spent some time over there, and I was just curious, looking at the savings from the 2024 redesign, knowing how small, I think it's 4 acres, right, for the building. That is so small. I would like to know your opinion about whether or not you think that this cost savings from reducing the amount of space, it's $11 million, is it worth it for a space that small? Or should we keep the space? That's kind of what I'm wondering.
Well, that's I would say kind of a high level question as far as, nuanced about ed specs and sort of our equity in our projects that we're building for all the high schools. I mean, we've been able to make the program spaces that we need, work within our reduced area. It does provide some challenges. One of the reasons why our buildings grew a bit in this round of high schools is that we were applying lessons learned where some of the spaces within our ed specs maybe don't provide as much storage or as much support for certain spaces. Our gyms were a little bit smaller, so we're trying to right size them. But the design team has done an amazing job of really kind of shifting things around to make sure that the areas that really needed that sort of extra attention have received that. And we're looking at just how to be more flexible with storage and building support as well to kind of accommodate for some of the reductions.
Do you know of the, sorry.
And if I can add, one of the things is we are down the road a bit on this current design, and we do not want to go backwards. So I would say for what we have presented and what we are providing, meeting our technical specifications, our ed specifications, and equity across the district, the design that has been presented, we've recognized the savings, which is our fiduciary responsibility, and at the same time, we're meeting all our programmatic needs for the school itself. And so we definitely don't want to cause any type of hesitation with proceeding with the design that is currently on the table, especially almost being to, what did I just write down? 75% design development documents. So I just wanted to add that for context.
So in terms of the ed specs, what are the ed specs for our high schools? How many hundreds, thousands, or 300,000 square feet are we meeting minimum ed spec in terms of total square footage?
Well, the ed specs are also nuanced because there are base requirements, then there are preferred and optional spaces. So there's a range from 281 to over 300,000 of space that the ed spec provides. And so it's really our job to kind of right size it for the schools, and based on the board framework that we received, that was direction to kind of give us a limit within to utilize the ed specs within that area.
And then, for Jefferson, we're doing the fields first. And, we've heard from our friends at Turf Hall Park for at least a year now, telling us what a significant priority doing Pal Park now is to the community. So I see that the stadium is slated early for fall 28, so a year early. What do we need to do to put Pal Park on the same schedule? The community's made that clear. I feel like we're still not seeing it. Is there actually a logistical problem, or are we choosing not to? Why Pal Park at the end versus tracking it with stadium?
Well, first of all, I can say since Pal Park, is not a PPS property, it's taking more time just to make arrangements and have communications with the right folks at the city to get the process started. We've already had an early assistance meeting with the review bureaus at the city specifically regarding Powell Park. So the design team is already starting on the work. We're getting proposals for the full scope of work. So the design team is not delaying or waiting. There's a land use process that we have to go through. We know we've seen challenges in other land use processes when we've been doing fields on Portland Park's properties. So we're anticipating that may not be so fast. And also there are agreements that the district and the city need to come to an agreement on, which I imagine are city council and mayor approval. So that those are high level conversations that I know that Deborah's been working really hard to foster those along. And have to say Megan and her group have been great from the community standpoint to really help get that momentum going.
So Deborah, where are we with the city?
They've had significant change, as you know, turnover in the office. Almost every person that we've worked with over the years and developed relationships is no longer there. And they have a new person who's the head of parks. It's also not extremely clear, I think, who's on first. We have They have this new format. You've seen what's happening. You just have to pick up the papers to read what's going on at the city of Portland. So I think there's just a lot of confusion about who actually gets to make decisions over there. I did receive word from them today that they are going to be reaching out to our team ASAP. They've been saying that for
Right. Definitely share, I'm sure, the Cleveland community's frustration in bringing this up continually and not being in a place where we seem to be able to connect the dots between PPS and the city. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just wondering what the solve is to expedite the communication. What can we do to help facilitate the communication between, having personally been through it with PPS and the city, what do we need to do to?
I don't actually think there's anything much that we can do besides what we are doing, to be honest. I think we all share their frustration. My kids all went through Cleveland. It doesn't look like that. It didn't look like that when they went there. The mayor's chief of staff's daughter goes to Cleveland. I mean, we have a lot of ways that we've been trying to attack this problem. I think it's just we just have to let them get their act together.
Is it possible that could we have a goal of trying to get Pal Park on the same timeline as the stadium? Would there be anything that would prevent that from happening?
There's nothing on this, there's nothing within design or construction or that we are stopping to not make it happen.
Okay.
But what is hindering us is an MOU with the Parks and Recs in the city, because we do not own the property.
Right, I understand.
And then we have 120-day land use that we've got to go through. So there are just things ahead of that are hindering us from getting started. But everything on the design and construction side of the table, we are pushing.
Okay, so in terms of logistics, there's nothing that would prevent it from moving separately.
Correct.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something. That's why I looked at you. So.
And then let's see, the other one, I just wanted to comment that I think that, knowing how the facilities are laid out there and having the track and the stadium, 4 blocks away. When I first saw the track, I was like, can we afford that? And then as we talked through it, I'm looking at it, it's actually a really interesting idea for the students, knowing how far away it is, especially during the winter. So I love that idea. Just wanted to call that out. That's it from the Cleveland list.
Okay. All right, we are going to move. Thanks, Eric. Great job. We're going to move to.
And it's incredible, by the way. The Cleveland plan is just, it's incredible.
Want to introduce yourself?
So different.
Good evening, my name is Donna Bazayo. I'm the Senior Project Manager for Ida B. Wells.
Okay.
All right, and you.
Yes, I gotcha.
Okay. For the agenda, we have very similar slides to the other 2 high schools that you just saw, with the board framework that we'll start with, and then the plan overview, the schedule summary, and our next steps. Go ahead. We know that you guys love these charts, so this shows the Ida B. Wells square footage. At the time of the comprehensive plan, we were up to 311,000 square feet. The ed spec is at 281,000, and as we've been talking about this evening, the board requested framework put us at 295,000 square feet, and so we are right about that exact target. This is a similar slide that you saw for Cleveland, where we show Ida B. Wells compared to Lincoln. Lincoln is that middle bar, Ida B. Wells is to the right, and you can see where we're pretty close there all the way across categories. Go ahead. How did we get to that 295,000 square feet? Our CTE spaces were right-sized. We adjusted some of the flexible learning areas, teacher planning and collaboration spaces. We adjusted some storage needs. We do have a health clinic, although we do not have the provider yet. PPS is working hard to find that provider, and so we're planning space on the main floor of the new building. Lincoln High School does not have a health clinic, so this could potentially serve the students in the Lincoln area as well. This school will not have a teen parent center, but those services are offered at Lincoln. Go ahead. So for our site opportunities and constraints on this site, there's several interesting features of this site. The topography is one. It slopes down the grade changes about 60 feet from the right or the east down to the left or the west. The low portion is down there where Riki Elementary sits. On that far left corner of the slide is Riki Elementary with the drive in between the two school properties. The high school sits on the high end of the site there on the right. It kind of sits on the crown of the hill, so to speak. If you look at the site access and transportation on the picture on the right, you can see where Southwest Capitol Highway is to the north. That's where the main bus stops are and where most of the students that take the bus would be coming in. Southwest Vermont Street is to the south, and that is where the current entry to the school is, and it will remain off of the Southwest Vermont Street. Another key feature is the Wells Pool, which is just about in the middle of the site, in the northern part of it, right there in the middle. That is remaining in the same place, and we're not doing any work to the pool, which is run by Parks and Rec. Little better picture of the site. Again, the existing school would be on the right or the east side where the baseball field is shown there now. The parking lot to the southeast, there is an existing parking lot there. That parking lot will be getting a lot bigger. And that is to account for the trees that we're adding all the way around the property. That ring road is there and will remain, but the improvements to the site include all of those trees being planted. So for all of those trees being planted, it takes away a parking spot, and we are going to be adding those back in that southeast parking lot. That means that the total count of parking spaces will be just about the same as it is right now. Yeah, I think we can go ahead to the next slide, shows the site as well. Yeah, this is perfect. You can see that the track and field is on the north end of the site. That is where it exists now, and it will remain. The building is broken up into quadrants. It's nice and simple the way it's laid out, with the purple area there is all the performing arts. The yellow is the athletics, so that's the main gym and auxiliary gym. The blue represents what we call the South Bar, which is the academics and administration and so forth. The white right down the middle is the heart of the building, the commons, which ties it all together. Go ahead. Another look at that, where you come in to a welcoming entry from that southeast parking lot there on the right. And you come into the commons. We're taking advantage of the topography. The building does step down to the left or to the west, and then we'll have lots of beautiful windows there to the views to the west. Over that multi-purpose field is right where it says views to the west. There's going to be a nice section cut drawing too that we can show through that commons area. Here's the building section. So this is the entry is there on the left if you came in the main entry, and you can see where as you travel through the building, it opens up to a beautiful two-story space. It'll be light and bright, and students can spill outside to that covered terrace area and have lunch or something out after school or whatever. We have a couple of exterior renderings. This is really meant to see the massing of the building and the size and scale. It's not meant to depict any of the finishes, as those haven't been selected yet, but this is what it looks like from that southeast parking lot. So towards the main entry, that main entry is in the middle there. And the next slide shows the opposite view looking from the track and field corner of the building. And that area that's two-story commons is right there in the middle. Lots of glass there, and the area where the students can come outside and enjoy outdoor space. So this is the main level, this just shows a little bit more detail for you, where you come into that white space. It represents the commons and lobby area. There's an upper commons. It opens up to the two-story commons to the left. The yellow are the gymnasiums. The main gym is on the lower level. The auxiliary gym is on the main level. The purple represents performing arts spaces, so theater, band, choir, and so forth. The pink in the front is the administration, light blue and pink. That whole bar is mostly academic, with the media center is to the west there in the corner, yes. So pretty easy to find. With the health clinic is also on that main level. So the arrow on the south is the entry where you can go directly towards the health clinic in the center of main level. This is the lower level or terrace level that we were talking about, where that commons space is on the lower level with the kitchen servery directly adjacent. Also to the south there, you can see the wood shop and maker space, and that has areas where they can come outside and do outdoor work as well in an outdoor yard. Building support is tucked in to the southeast there, and the yellow shows some more of those athletic spaces, including wrestling room, weight room, and then some athletic storage and team rooms, locker room and toilet shower areas. This is also a great opportunity where we've provided the entrance to the main gym from the north, so that you can come into the building that way too, and not necessarily have the entire building opened up for those weekend tournaments and so forth. Loading zone is there off the south, off Vermont. You can see it in the southwest corner. So very easy access to the building support, kitchen, servery, and wood shop. This is the second floor. As we step up with that south bar, you see most all of the classrooms, and it's got some CTE spaces. Some flex spaces are on the ends, and the third floor looks about the same. If you go to the next floor, essentially the same with the science classrooms up there on the top. Some nice renderings of the interior. The top two photos show what it would look like inside that commons. On the left, that's a view, again, that two-story space, how it would look from the upper floor. On the right is how that looks from the lower level, looking out again at that beautiful view. And then some spaces of the corridors are shown down below. Again, no materials are depicted. Next slide. So the overall schedule that you've seen before compared to the other schools, all three schools are planned to be open August 2029. We are just finishing schematic design documents and moving into design development. It's looking like we'll be moving in for the fall of 2029, and then the following year we would finish up with the site work, demoing the building, and having that fields and site work complete by August 2030. So on the budget summary, when you saw this last, we were saving approximately $3 million to $15 million when you saw it in the spring. Currently, we're saving approximately $5.6 million there in the lower right. Our hard costs did drop significantly from 359 to 345. We are currently in the middle of VE exercise right now, just really getting started. We do have two cost estimates that just came in. Both of them came in high, but we're working to bring that down in this VE exercise. So we're approximately 8% or 25 to 28 million over that 345 target for hard costs. But again, we're working to bring that down, and that's not unusual as we go into VE. For our owner direct hard costs, I can talk about what's included in that, but you can see there where we're utilities costs, additional right-of-way, and public improvements, which are still being worked on with the city. There's some things that have not been finalized with our current plan. Soft costs includes design, engineering, consultant services, permitting, insurance, etc. That also includes some added redesign costs as we went back to the drawing board. As part of the cost reduction study, we did find a lot of ways to find savings, but there was also some details that weren't worked out as part of the cost reduction study. So that's why we didn't have the savings quite as large as we had hoped. But again, we're still working on those costs. And we'll have more information very, very soon. Really by the end of this month, we'll be there. As far as the numbers that went up in soft costs, other things that went up, we did talk to furniture suppliers, got a better idea of what escalation is going to look like. We have adjusted the schedule. We're out a year farther than we were before, so that did add significantly to some of our soft costs. That escalation is included in the hard and soft costs that you see there. Like I said, we're expecting those new numbers by the end of this month, and that's noted there at the bottom. And then for the next steps, like I said, we're in this value engineering workshop right now. So we'll have some more information very soon. Those two cost estimates we just gotten were just being reconciled. The two estimates are within about 6% of each other, which is good. But again, both of those estimates were high, so we'll work to bring those numbers down. For community engagement, we have the DAG meeting on the 25th, community design workshop in October, and information table events that are ongoing, including a back to school night tonight at Ida B. Wells. Any questions?
Thank you. Great. So for the value engineering, so the two costs that you mentioned came in a little bit higher. Are those reflected in the budget summary, or?
They are not. The budget summary that you see here is at the end of the cost reduction study. We were looking, that has the target of 345. That's the hard cost. The hard costs that we're coming in right now, where we sit, it's about 25 to 28 million higher than that 345.
And that's what you're working on.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that.
But it does reflect where we think those soft costs have made changes and where we think we're at for the grand total.
Appreciate you calling that out now. So thank you for the transparency. Any questions from please? Comments?
Yes.
It looks like Patty's got a question.
Yeah, I just had a question about the health providers. Do both Cleveland and Wells already have a health provider that will stay?
Cleveland has a health provider that will stay, and they do have that letter of agreement. Wells does not have a provider, and so the district is working hard to find that partner.
Oh, actually, I meant Jefferson. Do they have one?
Oh, Jefferson does, yes.
That would stay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Just just for the board, I just want to make sure. So knowing that we're still looking for a provider, I think we're moving forward, hoping that we'll be able to secure that, but we don't have that yet. But just also wanting to call out the extra costs and knowing that we're not yet at a cost savings for Ida B. Wells. Is that any concerns on that?
It sounds like they're in the middle of it, so we're not quite finished the process. So no, I just appreciate the acknowledgement.
You know, and I would add that we were the lowest budget of the three schools.
Well, should be.
Already
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna call up Heidi and Marshall, talk about athletics.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just ask a question? I know you're the lowest prices representative. You all aren't, there isn't a plan to move the field though, right? Just replace.
Not moving the track and field.
So
It's
it's not
staying in
constructing a whole
current.
athletic field like Cleveland and Jefferson. With the whole reconstruction.
There's still a lot of work that
Oh,
needs to be
absolutely.
done there.
I'm just saying that those can't be compared.
It's not being moved.
The costs. I mean, I want to acknowledge that too. I don't want to be misleading in the.
Yeah,
It
but
should be.
I can also say though that there is enough cost associated even with keeping it where it was, that it didn't create the savings that we thought initially, but we found other savings across the site when we went back to the drawing board and redid the site and the building, so.
No, I think I just wanted to say there's danger in comparing the sites as if it's apples to apples.
Right, there's,
So I
yes.
just want to make sure that even though there might be some fluctuations between the sites, they're also uniquely different.
Yes.
I don't want community to grab onto that and say, well, like, but I'd be
Right, we don't want to think that, that our property is getting any less than the other schools or they're getting more, anything like that. Everyone is very different and we do have the largest property, but then we all have different things, right? Like we will not have the teen parent center. So there's just lots of differences. You can't really compare at all three schools.
Well, we look forward to the cost savings that will eventually come.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes.
I think a question from Christy's Burger Split.
Text or email?
Well, she said she assumed someone would ask about the farmer's market.
It's a great question. Why don't I ask about the farmer's market? Sorry, I'm like, psych, we're not quite done yet. So, we're already in the farmer's market. So, come back up. We've been getting bombarded with feedback from the community about keeping the farmer's market open. And I'm personally actually really familiar with that site. I understand where it is, understand why it's important. Is there, where are we at? Is this a possibility? Has that been important? Is it a hard no? Like, what? Just give us.
The farmer's market has been told for a very long time that they will not get a contract during our construction, so they are able to stay through next summer through October of next year. And then we've also told them that they're very welcome to come back after construction. But during construction, we've really felt that the safety and risk concerns, it would really be best for them to not be on the site on Sundays during construction. It's a construction site and we don't normally have those community partners at any of our sites during a construction project.
So I'd like to follow up with a question because I want to acknowledge the fact that I receive multiple emails a day on the farmer's market. And one of the trends that I'm noticing in the communication is that what I'm hearing reported is that the contractors, construction group has said that they are not recommending for the farmers market to move, that we're recommending it. And so they feel like there's a conflict in the communication. So whether it's PPS recommending for safety or contract or the CMGC or group or whoever that body of folks would be are recommending. I think it's creating a lot of confusion and generating a lot of emails. So I wonder if we can have clarity on that. And are we, I thought it was still in exploration stage. Are we at a place of saying that it's a done deal and there's no?
No, Dr. Armstrong, we are still entertaining some other ideas. I met with Lacey and I met with some of our park partners as well about trying to find some other solutions as opposed to them completely removing. So the deal is not done yet. We are still looking at other solutions for the farmers market.
So when you say other solutions, are you talking about helping secure a different site?
Either staying on site or finding a local one that's comparable.
So it isn't a hard no.
From me, no, it's not a hard no in
Okay.
our real estate team. We're still working on it.
Okay, and for the contractor saying they could be on site, TPS is saying we'd rather not, and we're exploring solutions.
The
Correct.
contractors have some logistics planning that they've been doing.
Okay.
And some of those plans do not allow for that parking lot to be used for that. And so that is still,
I'm just hoping that, and I appreciate that, I'm just hoping that we can get clarity so that when we communicate out whatever the final
Yes.
decision is, that there's some ownership on who said what. And that community is clear because as they've mentioned in multiple emails, it's a significant part of that community and their enterprise work.
Absolutely. We will discuss that with our CMGC that's on board with Wells, and we'll make sure that we're all on the same clarification of what that messaging is, absolutely.
And Tom, I'm glad you brought up the possibility of helping them relocate, because I was actually gonna ask about that, because there are parks right there. Thought about the JCC parking lot, spaces that are right there that can help.
And we're also focused on helping our trails partners as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, athletics update. We'll call up Heidi and Marshall. You guys want to introduce yourself?
So I'm Marshall Haskins, Senior Director of Athletics.
I'm Heidi Bertman, Senior Program Manager for Planning and Design. So we're here to share with you the preliminary implementation strategy for the 2025 Bond Athletics program. There are 6 sites that we're improving. And this first page, since the biggest question we get is what's happening when, this first page is just a super clean narrative breakdown showing you when construction, planning, and permitting will be happening on each one of these sites. On this first page, you'll see that some of those have a little asterisk next to them. Those are sites where the work is coordinated with or associated with a modernization. That does not mean that it's under the umbrella of the modernization budget. And you'll see on the next page kind of what I'm talking about.
Yes.
All right, here we go. This is the meat of it. So getting to that idea right away of what's happening when. 2025, we see a dark blue and we see some gray and we see some light blue. The different colors, there's a key down there on the lower right-hand part of the page. So each one of these projects has a planning that's a super broad statement to address the early planning, the scoping, and the land use processes that need to happen for these projects. We have permitting, when you actually have a design and you go in there and you apply for your site development and building permit. And then the dark blue is the construction that you'll actually see on the site. So this first look, you'll notice the first question I got back when I shared this was, what are those diagonal lines next to Jackson Hub? I'll explain those in just a split sec. Starting at the top, the grant lights, which we've discussed, I've heard discussed in this setting before. I haven't been here with you doing that. It's been the team working on it. We have grant seating. Roosevelt, we've broken it up into 2 different projects because they have different intensity and permitting requirements. We have West Sylvan Middle School field improvements, the Marshall Hub, Jackson, Franklin Upper Field, the Jefferson Early Fields, and Powell Park are shown on here, even though they're not part of the athletic package. Obviously, this all relates to what that experience is for our community. So we've included them here for context. So a couple things to note. I'll explain the diagonal lines. So the light blue, there's a very short light blue portion there associated with Jackson. That's because we saw this coming and we were able to carve out some capacity and work on the conditional use master plan approvals with the city of Portland. So that early land use approval is already complete and Jackson Hub can move straight into implementation. They need to work on the permitting. And that diagonal hashed line that you see on the medium blue with a little bit of dark blue, that indicates that the team project manager who's looking at this with us anticipates some early construction packages to get that hub in place. And that's also why we see some kind of white and dark blue hatch there at the end. If all things go well, and we know that until you're in it, you don't know, but hopefully that stuff can be ready for spring of 27. We'll see. We don't know what parts and pieces are going to be easier to get constructed first yet.
No, that's it.
Any questions?
So here comes the shot. I have a couple. for the grant lights, are we still tracking for, I know that December 1st was really aggressive.
I'm still working
I was
for it.
a little
Absolutely.
worried when you said that. I was like, I don't know if he knows what he just said.
No, so our
How's it going?
Bora partners, our amazing Bora partners, finished the design ahead of schedule. These next 2 weeks are going to be very critical. They're going out and doing sites, and we're really going to be leaning hard on our friends at Portland Power.
Right.
So by probably about Wednesday or Thursday of next week is when, if their schedule isn't going to be able to meet our December goal, that's what I'm going to be asking for help.
Okay, great. Let's see, already covered Powell Park, and what we need to do to try to compress that timeline and move it up. And so I've got two other things. Let's see. So I know, just for this spreadsheet, like I know when I look at some of these, Grand High School seating or Marshall Hub Field and Lights, they actually include more than that. Those are kind of the big pieces, but there are things like, scoreboards or PA or, I don't think that Marshall Hub, do they actually have bleachers? Like, or is it just, I don't know if they have one. I know that there's some of these have a little bit more than what we're seeing. Can we get a little more granular next month and break it down to like what
they include.
What they all really include? Like what we'll need to include in the land use application?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got, we have a lot of detail in the bond planning backup that we can pull up for review. And every time you say field, that actually means a few things, right?
Exactly.
There's some finer print under every one of these topics. So yeah, we can certainly flesh out what this means in a little bit more detail. Absolutely.
Great. And then on the slide before this, you noted middle schools planning, pending funding. I know that you have some ideas in terms of like what you would like to see from middle schools. I'd love to see that as a committee. I think that is, a really interesting spend, low cost, high reward for spaces like that. I would, if you have time between now and the next meeting, if we can't do the next meeting, perhaps November, I'd love to see what your dream plan would be. Like there were 5 middle schools that you wanted to, what that would look like and what, rough budget would be associated with that. Is it 10 million? Is it 15 million? Like what is it?
Well, I think in our long-term facility plan, that's all listed out, planned out, prioritized. But we can't bring the specifics. We went over that today in terms of specifics, what they are. And we also ballpark what we thought the prices might be. Mm-hmm. Our intent would be if there's money left over, that then we would go to the prioritized middle school list and then just walk through that list, making sure that we provide equitable access across the city. We have some projects that were done on the west side based on the fact that we completed high schools and they were part of the high school plan. So we immediately go to the east side if we have additional dollars to make sure that we have some middle schools. I do think there's one other piece I guess I'd like to add is I think we have Heidi and I have done a good job. Heidi's done, when I say we, Heidi, Heidi and I have done a good job of putting this together. But part of this still is going to be predicated on our ability to staff it to get done. So if we have project managers available, it'll be able to expedite. If we don't, then it won't. So this is the timeline that we think is feasible. Still, the devil will be kind of in the details of staffing.
So are you anticipating any challenges as far as staffing goes to meet these timelines, or is that something?
Well, I don't want to put my colleagues on the spot, but I'll say that the staffing doesn't come out of our department.
Yeah, that's something that.
That's John's question.
We're presenting this timeline for a reason. Is that it is a priority as with all of our projects, and so it's a goal, and so with any level of project we have to staff, right? So that means as we cycle off, certain projects we staff it. So that's what we plan to do, and so we have to generate a staffing plan.
With some of these, I will say I'm reading this right, like just looking at the Roosevelt grandstand, that's, over 2 years away from project completion. That's a long time.
It is.
Is there any opportunity to not have it take so long?
We are trying. we are looking to find any and every opportunity, for sure.
I bring those up because these are those projects that, kids see when they're in high school and they move in and they move out through the system before they ever even have a chance to have the experience. So, again, like some of our lower cost stuff, but really, so.
I'd like to just add that from an athletic perspective, even if it takes a little longer, we're just so ecstatic that it got done. I mean, Roosevelt started, I think was completed in their first bond, and their field is just now getting done, right? So we did prioritize some of that in our thinking. But we are recognizing that there is a process, and we've shared that with our principals, that even though you're on the list, you might be first up, but if the permitting or the planning or whatever happens, it could be altered based on that.
Well, I know that you have a sense of urgency around it, so anything, you can do, so to understand that, and really like to see those smaller projects hit as quickly as we can. Any questions from you guys on this?
Yeah, I had a question. Is the West Sylvan Middle School field improvements are also important to Lincoln, right? They use those, or planning to?
Yeah, so both Lincoln and Jackson are being used for the high school. So Lincoln, West Sylvan is the only other field over there in their community that we can use as auxiliary for high school, because they only have one field. Most of our other high school sites have multiple fields. And then Jackson serves both as a swing site for Wells while they're building, and then it's a hub for really for the whole district. But it'll look like it's for the west side, but it's really for the district because everyone can go there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see, where's my script? Okay, so.
Good.
So last item would be the 2025 bond and OSM planning, since we've got a lot of new news last week. We were at the board meeting last week, and Dr. Armstrong stated that staff will bring forward a new OSM staffing plan that will name Presidio as the lead for 2025 bond implementation. And I just want to start by recognizing that you stepped into this leadership at a time when the PPS is facing very urgent and very complex challenges. And I really appreciate your commitment to moving quickly on all these projects. So my comments are not about questioning leadership or intent at all, but more about process and oversight. Presidio received their initial contract for $149,500, which was just under the board approval threshold. And soon after, last week, we approved another contract for nearly $500,000 before we had the opportunity to see results from the first contract. So I know we all felt the tension at that meeting. It was a lot of pressure, it was confusing, and community members and even staff were concerned that PPS didn't conduct its own competitive RFP process. So just for context, Sarah, I'm not putting you on the spot or anything like that, so this is not personal or anything like that, but when Presidio bid on Fort Worth's, they have a $750 million bond. And there were 8 firms that competed for that business, and Presidio received a $50 million piece of business. We were just in California. We visited New Compton High School. It was amazing. And I asked their board chair about the RFP process for the schools and the project management, and they are legally required to have that RFP process in the state of California. It's a big deal. And so my concern is that here in Portland, we're weeks away from potentially making, multi-million-dollar commitment based on the same percentages as Fort Worth. It would be $70 million without even testing the market. So I just want to say, clearly the district needs significant help to manage the 2025 bond effectively. And I really support your recognition of that need. But I do have concerns about handing out a sole source contract of this magnitude without real due diligence. Presidio may be the right partner. I'm not saying they're not, but right now we can't demonstrate that to the public. And I want to push back on the idea that board oversight causes harmful delays. I've heard that a few times. And oversight is it's not second guessing our leadership, it's ensuring it's transparency and protecting public trust. And I don't believe that our reputation will be rebuilt with speed alone. We'll be rebuilt with competition, openness, and responsible stewardship of our taxpayer dollars. And to that end, I would really love to see what steps and a timeline would look like for an open, competitive, PPS-driven RFP process for OSM leadership and staffing. What would that look like? We don't know. At the board meeting, we heard that there are 6 open positions. We don't know what they are. We'd like to know what they are. Anticipated board vote dates for any staffing contracts. I know we discussed this too, but just want to reiterate the deliverables tied to the initial Presidio contract and also the one that we just approved. And then, we just passed a lobbying registration policy. So I think for transparency, it's going to be important for us to have the dates and participants of any meetings between Presidio and PPS staff since the first contract was signed. And I think it's important. I'm raising these questions not out of mistrust at all, but out of respect for the superintendent's leadership and just the scale of what lies ahead. And I think by addressing these issues now, we can stand alongside you, building a bond program that our community can trust and support. I think these are not personal, they're prudent, and I really hope you'll consider.
I just had a couple questions, just a couple responses, because I think some things you mentioned are actions that we've already taken. So I just want to be clear in what you're asking. And I appreciate, I always respond to calls to action, whether I agree or disagree with it, and I want to be clear. So last week, the proposal, the contract that we had before the board was moving the contract from being a singular focus to a focus on 3 schools. And we know that we needed to act pretty quickly and that we didn't want to lose step, and so that there aren't any delays or any of those things. And so that which was voted on and approved is why we have interim senior director Sarah actively involved with the team in helping to move the work. All the other things that you talked about the next phase of work and what's happening, I've already had a conversation with board leadership. We already plan to have conversations about the RFP. It's a timeline, it's not new. I think from my role as superintendent, right? I mean, you hire me to lead the district, and that's what I'm doing. And so I know that there's been lots of press and lots of chatter online about like what's happening and all the different things, and I read and pay attention to those things too. But I'm not exactly sure what you're asking because everything that you mentioned is already planned. So I just want to be clear in, are we on a past decision or are we talking about future stuff?
I've been part of your conversation with board leadership.
And you probably wouldn't be because it's me with board leadership talking about the plans and the next step of things.
In our meeting last week, I asked about whether or not there would be an RFP for additional work, and you said no. Has that changed?
Well, I don't know if I fully understood what your question was then, if I was at a hard no. I think I had said that we were going to bring some things back for you all to eventually approve. So I may have misunderstood.
Will additional work from an outside partner, will there be a PPS-led RFP process?
Yes, there will be. Yes.
That is news to me. That's great news.
Well, that's because we have to wait for the updates, right? I mean, I'm being respectful and just saying that, like, if I'm charged to lead, then I need to have space to lead and be able to get communication to people, because I think we want to provide the updates and make sure that folks have the information to be able to do their board business. And I need information and distance to be able to do the work of the superintendent.
I think everybody's giving that space. I think we're in a position where we're making big decisions with little notice and not all the information. So it sounds like you're preparing an RFP process.
Yes, we've already talked about it. Legal's already on it. We have some conversations that we need to have. I talked to Chair Wong and Vice Chair DePass about it already. I mean, it's conversations that are happening, and was going to be provided in an update as soon as we were able to come together and have a conversation.
There's still, I mean, it wasn't just kind of expanding upon that. There was some direction that they're still exploring. So the reason there hasn't been much communication about it yet is because they're still trying to figure out, dotting the i's and trying to figure out what are the best avenues to do it. And once that happens, we're happy to share.
Yeah.
But
And had I known this was a topic, I could have prepared some information that would have been a little more detailed, but I didn't know that this was.
I added it at the last minute because it's keeping me awake at night, and I was working off of what happened at the board meeting. We said no, that there wouldn't be an RP process. So I'm happy to hear that that's changed. So.
I mean, I also, I want to add and also push back because there's different kinds of oversight. And I want to reiterate that oversight is the job of the board. At the same time, we also have to know what kind of oversight we're talking about. For example, oversight to check, this is public money. So the board's job is to oversee the budget to make sure there's no such thing such as corruption or ethics violations going on. That's one kind of oversight. Then there's another kind of oversight where we're talking about a potential dipping into, for example, managerial decisions, whether or not to approve certain contract or not. And that is something that the board really is not well suited to do because we are not in the, we don't see the big pictures. We are volunteers. We have limited time. We don't see all the intricacies. So I guess one of the things I want to kind of provide context for is that, we've tried a lot of this kind of board meddling in contracts and approval and stuff since 2012. I remember as a teacher, these things keep going back and forth, and it was very ineffective. And one thing that we've learned from tons of these conferences is that having a board support, it's a different system. The superintendent is the employee of the board. We charge the superintendent to do a job. And, what kind of boss are we if we're constantly, if employees constantly feel like they're being, second guessed on being. I'm sorry, I'm not arguing against what you're saying.
Second guessing it, and I don't think that, this is what oversight looks like. So when we see.
But is the oversight so that you can say yes or no to certain directions, or is the oversight to check if there's
The
any
oversight
ethics
is
violations?
thinking about when we're at a board meeting and we're gonna approve a contract that's worth $70 million and potentially we have one bid and one option. Did we do our work?
But we're not there yet. I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay,
I
but
mean,
that was the plan a week ago.
well, no, because we don't have anything on it. I mean, I may have said some things about what we were planning to do or what we were looking to do. I could have been a little caught up in the moment, but I mean, at this point, we don't have anything in the agenda. We don't have anything on board books. There isn't any record of any agreement anywhere. So, I mean, at this point, what we needed was help from a group that we all believe in, can deliver on what we're asking them to do in the interim while we get in place a model that allows us to outsource the work of our 3 high schools. And so just needing time to do that. I mean, there's some legal pieces, there's a team of folks that are involved in that conversation. I wanted to make sure that I understood from Chair Wong and Vice Chair DePass, kind of where they were sitting and debriefing after, or what their feelings were after the board meeting.
Yeah.
So
part of the point of that leadership meeting, I have gone around, I've asked separate board members individually, you included, I shared your frustrations, I shared Director Chase Miller's sentiments as well as, Director Sullivan. I've talked to everyone individually, and that's why I shared at that. And from that, there was a decision to explore that, look into how to go about the RFP process. So there has been, as the board chair, my job is to be responsive and to understand the direction and the sentiment of the board and fulfill that. And this is kind of like the best of both boards that we try to figure out. At the same time, I also want to respect that there are other board members that also want to move on and have this done as soon as possible and support this difficult work. So to kind of respect both at the same time, this is kind of the option that
Well, I do want to clarify too, thank you for that, Chair Wong, but I do want to clarify that I initiated the conversation on the RFP.
Yeah.
That it wasn't that you brought it to me
Yes.
saying, hey,
Yes,
here's what
thank you.
people want to do. I came to you and said, here's where we're at. What are the thoughts? What are your feelings? What are your reactions? So I want to confirm that. I think you said that, but I just wanted to be clear
No, no,
that
I wasn't
that it
clear.
wasn't as if, you know, I had to be told this. I mean,
No,
I think,
absolutely.
yeah, so.
Sounds like at the end of the day, we're all on the same page.
Yes.
And I think that's product of some healthy debate.
I don't know, I wouldn't say that we're on the same page, but I'll respect for the conclusion of this conversation. And I mean, I'm just excited for us to get moving. I think the work, the ramp up to get to this place of cost savings from the 3 high schools, figuring out how we could put those funds in the seismic projects. I mean, I know that you weren't here on this journey with me when I first started, but, and I don't often like say publicly, like, hey, I initiated this. Hey, I initiated that. It was a conversation that I started when I was first hired, and I stayed on how can we reduce the cost so that we could do more across Portland? How can we go faster on Jefferson? I've said that in every public space that I've been in. I've even said I'm exploring options on how we can accelerate Jefferson. These are things that I've been consistently saying since I've been selected as superintendent. So like, I just want to be clear, right? It's like, I want folks to come on the ride and the journey and be excited that we're moving and that there's progress. But I also need to note that, you know, there's teams of people that have been in this with me for over a year, or at least since I've been here for 14 months. And I mean, I think it's important to just recognize and call that out. And I'm sorry if I'm a little frustrated, but I think when we think about this work and as a team, and the purpose of this facilities committee is, our hope is that the team can bring information so the board is informed. But I also want to know if it's going to be a place where there's like some slight redirection or refuting of work that's happening in public meetings, so that me and my team can prepare better.
There's any refuting of work. Any other questions? Future agenda topics. I think probably anything that you want to add now, or I can circle back with everybody offline.
One quick thing about, I just want to clarify about the mass timber memo. It seems like that is the direction that is going forward, right? Because it seems like the cost benefit came out pretty even or close to, and that's the direction that the DAGs are going and the buildings are going.
All three modernization high schools have a hybrid structural system that will have mass timber components.
Okay.
And so that is where the design is headed and what we're currently working through. Those are all on the table for budgeting and through our VE process, but yes, that's what that memo, and we weighed all of those items within that memo, and it's a very detailed memo by the team. It's quite a few pages long, and the report actually prepared by Bora was quite long as well. And so, but yes, that is the direction currently.
Okay.
Any questions regarding that?
No, I'm excited for it because mass timber just seems really cool.
It is.
Okay, so our next meeting, the Facilities Improvement and Oversight Committee, is October 8th, and this meeting is adjourned.